Hi guys, and welcome to another Bootstrap tutorial. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we're going to continue on with our Bootstrap basics theme here. We've built this little site here. We built our nav bar and our slider here, and we customized our slider and added some call to action buttons. And all is well. But what we really need to do now, especially nowadays, it's more important than ever, is to make sure this is fully responsive, that it's going to look good on all devices, not just this desktop monitor here. So I'm using Google Chrome here. Let's hit F12 and bring up the Chrome Inspector. And over on the left hand side, yours may be in a different position. You can position your dock by using these buttons here, if you just click on those three little buttons there. But on the left hand side you're going to find a toggle which toggles the responsive device sizes. So if we look at our site, I've got it checked on responsive so I can pull it larger or smaller. This is where we are at the moment on a desktop. Fine. Let's start reducing down and see what it looks like on smaller things. Now, when we get down to about 1300, really, when we get down to about 1600, that thing's getting as high as you want it. Let's just pull this down a little bit, because we've got more slider in there. That's okay. I'd say around the 16 we want to start making adjustments, and then when we go down to 14 it starts disappearing off the top. 11, half of it's not visible there. What's slide 3 looking like? Slide 3's pretty much disappeared there. As we go down further, all we can see there are the buttons, and then there's nothing. Now there's a good reason there's nothing when we get down below a certain level. That is because of one of the Bootstrap. Yeah, there it is. 760, 770. Seems to be just around 770 that those things disappear. And if we look at our indexed HTML, which is the page here, I'm using the brackets text editor. It's absolutely free. You can download it from a link below this site if you don't have a text editor. It's got some fantastic features. But any text editor will do. Okay, so let's look here. If we look at here's our carousel, or here's our carousel inner. If we look at our carousel captions, they've got this Bootstrap 4 class of display none, or D none. That means don't display. And then right next to it's one that says MD block, display on medium block. So once it gets to medium screen size, which is obviously about 770 or so, it's going to start displaying. Anything below that, it's going to disappear. That's why that disappeared when we were doing this, which is actually not such a bad thing. I'm going to change it a little bit, but if we, for instance, go on here and look at on smartphone, you'll see the images for the slider. They work absolutely fine, but there's no captions, because really there's probably too much information on there to display correctly anyway. So let's go and correct what we need to do with some media queries. So let's take it up to where it's okay. It's pretty good there. It's fine there. I think around about, I don't mind those collapsing those buttons there, but round about, it's getting a little high there, around about 1600 I think we'll probably start here. And what we can do, we've given this a width of 50%. We can make it a bit wider so it takes up more room, and we can reduce the margin on the bottom there. So let's go back to our index.html. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a couple of these classes. That W50 width 50 is what we put in there to make it just display 50%, and then ML auto and right auto were there to make sure it stays in the middle. So I'm going to delete that. Same with the next one below it. And same with the last one, that W50 there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write that in as CSS so we can change it a lot easier with our media queries. So Control S. Now if we look at the site, if I take this toggle off, there it is at our 50%. If I now refresh, it'll be a lot wider and you'll see probably just one line of paragraph text below there. There we go. That's made it a lot longer, but I don't want to leave it like that. I want to keep it as our 50% because our other slides, they look okay, but I preferred it when it was more compact in the middle. If you want to just leave it off like that, that's entirely up to you. And this, rather than having our four stacked on top of each other, has got them side by side. And again, that's fine, but it's not what I was wanting. So let's go to our custom CSS and actually put that in what we've taken away here, which was width 50%. So we want to work on our carousel caption because each of these has got the class of carousel caption, carousel caption, carousel caption. So that's what we want to affect, and we've already got a media query. I mean, we've already got a CSS entry for that. There it is right there, carousel caption. I'm going to get rid of that one that we've got commented out there. And underneath the last entry, I'm going to simply say width 50%. This achieves the same thing as that W50, but we can change it a lot easier with media queries, which we're going to have to do. So Control S to save. Back to the site, refresh. That should look, let's look at the third one. It's easier to see. This should now go back to how we had it. That's that first one. Look at the third one. There we are. Our things are all stacked as they should be. Okay, so that's that bit of housekeeping taken care of. Our first thing. So I said around 1600 pixels I believe I want to start affecting stuff, wasn't it? Yeah, we'll take it about there. I'll just put it slightly above. Let's go to our custom CSS now. And I'm going to do this in the slider section. I'm going to do it underneath our last entry before the buttons because it is to do with our slider here. I'm going to put it in media query. So it starts with @media only screen, and then after the and we want to put in some round brackets, and in between those round brackets we want to put the size that we want to affect. So we'll say max width, so anything that's got a screen size of 16 and below, 1600, and max width. Yeah, talk and code, it's a good idea. Max width, there we go, of 1600 colon 1600 pixels. So @media only and max width of 1600 pixels. So anything that up to 1600 pixels this will affect. Let's open and close some curly brackets, and within these curly brackets this is where we've got to put our media. So let's have a look, see what we want to do. If we go back to our site, we're still going to use the Chrome inspector here. So let's take it down to just around 1600, a little bit less, and let's inspect. That's just too high there. Yeah, they're all a little bit too high at this resolution. So let's get to our carousel caption. There it is. What I actually want to affect is the margin. Remember, because of the slides, we're only going to see it on whichever one I've got it on. So let's take the margin down to perhaps 10%. That's better, a little lower down. That's absolutely fine. So I'm going to say carousel caption margin bottom 10. You have to grab it quick when it's revolving. And let's paste that in between our two curly brackets here. Remember, I need to put an ending curly bracket on that bit of code I just put in there, because you always, with media queries, want to make sure you've got two at the end there. So the first one's for the actual media query itself, and the outside two, and then the inner two is for the whatever code you put in there. Okay, so that's that margin bottom. We've changed that. That's fine. What else do we want to change? I think I wanted the actual width to change about now. So there's the width 50%. What if we take it up to say 70%? Yeah, that's fine. Everything looks good there. So let's just copy that bit as well. I could have done this all in one swoop, but that's fine. Till you start experimenting, you don't know what you want. So we've got those two. And just take that back a little bit. So let's save our changes. Control S, go back, refresh this site, and as you can see, it's done it already. That's a bit wider and it's dropped it down. If I pull it up over 16, you're going to see it go back to 50%, and it'll jump up just slightly. There we go. So let's roll it down. 17. Here we go. There we are. There's it, under 16, so that's fine. Next one we want to do is probably around the 1300. It's getting a little. Let's have a look at that third slide. It's not too bad. Still sort of rolling up a little bit. Yeah. 64. That third slide is just not looking good. Second's good. Third slide's way too high there. We could either knock it down a little bit, or we could just take that margin down a little bit more. We could actually take the text size down if we wanted to. Let's have a look, see. So let's just say 1300. Let's take our bottom margin down to perhaps 5%. I think it's on 10% at the moment. So let's go to our custom CSS. I'm going to copy this. In fact, I'm going to copy all of this. Control C to copy. I'm just dropping down a couple. This time I want to say 1300 pixels. So when it gets below then, the width I'm not going to change, so I can delete that. But the margin bottom I'm going to change to 5%. Control S to save. Let's go back to the site. And let's take it up above 13. There we go. Now when I drop below 13, it should drop down slightly again. There we go. It's just dropped down a bit then. Let's have a look at our third slide now. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. See how far we can actually go with it. Yeah, it's jumping up a little too much there. Those buttons are disappearing off. We're at the 10. So what we could actually do is just take that H5 and paragraph text, just take it down slightly in size and see if that'll help. So let's go grab our H5, carousel caption H5 and P. We've already got some entries up here. Here's our slider, here's our H5, and there's our P. So let's grab both of those. Go back down to where we were, that's 1300. And just after the carousel caption, I'll make a gap, And I'll put this CSS below the video, so don't try copying it while I've got it on screen. You're welcome to if you want to, but I'll put it below. You're welcome to use it and manipulate it how you want. So we're not going to change the uppercase bit, but we will change the actual size of it. So let's change it. Let's make it maybe half size, so 30 pixels. And paragraph text, let's take that down to say something like 16 pixels. We can always change this. Control S. Okay, let's have a look back at our site. Refresh. Yeah, that's taken it down. As you can see, the font size is quite down. So when we shrink down now, yeah, we can keep going. How's that third one? That third one's fine. I don't want it any higher than that, I don't think. That's fine too. So let's say about 980 or 960, something like that. Let's make sure. First one, that's fine. Second one, it's okay. Third one's fine again there. So let's do another one, say at 960, because it's going to disappear shortly. Yeah, see, it's floating off the top there. And what we'll do, we'll take that margin down again. And we can actually reduce the size of those buttons if we need to. So let's see, yeah, around 960. Let's go back to our custom CSS. And wherever we were, here we go. And I'm going to copy this. Put it after our last one. Change that to 960. This time, and I need to add immediate open curly on the bottom, because remember what I said, it always wants to end with doubles if you got media captions. Of course I got one too many on there. Actually no, that's for this one, so that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Okay, good. And let's just take away our margin completely and see if that helps. 0%. Control S. Okay, let's refresh now. Okay, start shrinking down. Yeah, it's okay. And of course it disappears when, because of that display none, it disappears when we get to right around 770. Okay, so it's pretty good. I mean, that's not really as much as I'd like to see it. So that's alright. What we could do, we could take those buttons down in size just a little bit, and that would alleviate some of the spacing. So let's do that. We can do that under our media query that we've got here. So let's go back to our CSS. What's the name of our buttons up here? We've got danger. Oh, down below. Buttons. Here we are. We've got primary. So I'm going to copy that one. It's class. And I'll put this as a new class right there. I'm going to put a comma because I'm going to put the other button classes right after it. We've got btn-success. Want the dot as well, or the period. And I'm going to put another comma because we'll put the last button there as well, rather than having to do 3 entries, which was btn-danger. And no comma after the last one, but open some and close some curly brackets. Drop down one. And what do we want them to do? Well, we've got, at the moment, we've got the width at 200 pixels. So let's take that width down to perhaps 150. So So that'll be a saving of 50 pixels on each button. And we've got a margin, top and bottom of 10 and 15. We can reduce that some as well. Let's take that down to sort of half, 5. And half of 15, 7.5. Let's do 8. That's close enough. And we've also got some padding right here on the buttons. We're probably going to have to use the important on all of these to make it work, because they've got previous ones they've got to overwrite. And let's take our padding down to about half as well, so say 5 pixels and just 10 pixels. That'll do. It's a little less than half, but I'm sure that's fine. That way these buttons should shrink down and give us a bit more space there. Control S to save. Back to the site. Let's refresh. Let's take it up above so we can see the change. Refresh. And let's look at these buttons when we go below 960 or whatever it was we had there. Nothing. Yep, so we'll have to use those important classes. So let's grab one. Control C to copy, and let's just paste that in there and that in there between the numeric entry and the semicolon. And let's just save that. Go back. Yep, well, that works on that one. Works on that one. Okay, this one we're gonna have to pull this down a little bit because that's way too high there. So let's give this section, or give this particular section a class of its own, and we'll just wrong one. We'll give this particular section a class of its own and just drag it down a little bit with a margin. Okay, so let's go to our index.html. That's our third slide, isn't it? Here we go, index. Here's our third slide. And what we want to affect is this right here, carousel-caption. So we'll call it caption 3. Let's just call it C3, caption 3 class. Control S to save. Let's add the caption 3 class. Okay, let's go back to where we were, which was here. Let's drop down a little bit. Give it our class name, or dot because it's a class. Let's move it all the way over. Okay, dot or period C3 for caption 3. Open and close some curly brackets, and in between we want to tell it to drop down a little bit. So we're going to say margin bottom, and we'll give it a negative percentage to drop down by -5% or something. Margin bottom colon, and I'll try -5%. We can do more or less than that if we need to change it. Semicolon. Control S. Let's go back to the site and refresh. Let's go to slide 3. Yeah, that's better. That's dragged it down quite a bit. First one, second one, fantastic. Okay, well, let's just double check. So let's have a look at it on iPad. Let's take it up to 100%. 3, 1, 2. That's absolutely fine. And let's check it on an iPhone 10. Well, of course we can't see anything because it's displaying none. It doesn't matter if we take it up, it's still not going to be there. Now if we want it to be displayed on the iPhone 10, we can add some more media queries and perhaps get rid of the buttons, because I think with the buttons it's going to be just too small. So to actually get it to display, we need to go to our index.html and get rid of that class of dnone. Here we go, div carousel-caption dnone. That's the thing that's stopping it from displaying on anything smaller than medium-sized devices. So let's just take that away, and we'll do the same for all the other ones. dnone, select, delete, Control S, back to the site. Now when I refresh, all our carousel caption stuff should be there, but like I say, I think the buttons are just going to be way too big for fitting in there. Yeah, well, they're there, but you can hardly see anything. You're just catching a couple of little buttons there, whereas we could have the actual caption and the paragraph text and just get rid of the buttons. So let's put this back on responsive. Let's take it down. Yeah, okay. So round about, that's really where it's messing up. Let's have a look at this third slide. Yeah, you can't see it at all there. So round, see it there, 770. That's 750. Yeah, it's still off the top there. So let's say 770 for sake of argument. 70, 777. You can see that one fine. You can see all of them fine. So let's get rid of the buttons after 777. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll add another media query. That's if you want it to display on mobile phones. So let's go to our last media query. Let's just copy this one again. And we'll put it down below our last entry. And put a closing curly on the end of there. Space in between, and we said 777, wasn't it? Okay, so what do we want to happen? We want the buttons to disappear, and we may want our fonts to be a bit smaller. So let's have a look. All our buttons have got the class of button, primary, success, danger. Rather than using 3 different queries, I can just use the class of button and it will do the same thing. So let's put that class in. Let's go back to our custom CSS. And here we are right here. And I'm going to just hit the class of btn for button. And I want to tell it to actually go away. Display none is what I want to say. Display none. Semicolon. Save that. Make sure it's going to work. I'm sure it will. And so let's take it up above 777. Refresh, no change. Now when I take it down below 777, those buttons should disappear, but they haven't. Oh, might want to spell that class correctly. btn, there we go. Control S, back to the site. Let's have a look now. I want to take it above 77, refresh. Now when we take it below 777, it should disappear. There we go, the buttons have disappeared. And that lets it shrink down. You can still see the caption and the paragraph text. Now when we're getting down it is getting a bit smaller. So what we could do, we could take our text down a little bit in size, and we could change that margin. I think we probably want to put a bit of margin back on there because it's sitting a little low there. So it's 777. So let's do that. Let's take our fonts a little bit smaller in size and reduce the padding on the caption maybe a little bit. Back to our custom CSS. There we are, right there. Drop down one. And what do we want to do? We want to use a carousel caption again. So I'm going to pinch this one right here. Of course, you can type it in if you want to. And I want to give it a bit of margin again at the bottom because it dropped down a bit too far there. And let's give it padding all round of just 25 pixels. That should give it a little extra space because at the moment I think it's 100 and something. So we'll say padding 25 pixels. What else do we want to do? We want to take those texts down in size. So that's our P and our H5 here. Let's just steal those again. And drop down below this last entry, making sure to leave that last curly bracket in place. So we've still got 2 at the bottom there. So we want H5, we'll take that from 30 to perhaps 20. And this one we'll take down, don't want to take that one down too much because you'll still want to be able to read it. Let's say 12 pixels. Now let's have a look. Control S and go back to the site. Refresh. Yeah, that's taken it down quite considerably in size. There we go. And there's our third slide. I think our padding's working. It still looks like we've got, if we look at the second slide here, we've still got way too much padding either side of it. So let's see what's going on there. Let's just try adding the important to our padding. Definitely on the right thing, aren't we? They've got no dot in the front of there. That's why it's not working. Okay. Try that again. Back to the site. If you talk and code, you make mistakes. There we go. That's a little bit more like it. Now that padding's disappeared. It's fine. All the way down to about 400 pixels. Then we need to take that margin back off the bottom because it's risen up too much, especially on that third one. Oh, actually they're all pretty much the same. So we'll say 400, we'll drop it back down. Yeah, because you start to lose it after that. So that's going to be it. I know this is going along a bit, but media queries are pretty important. And it's a good idea to do it. It's a little tedious, but you can achieve some great things by it, and it is really important that your site displays correctly on responsive devices. So let's put our closing curly on there, and I want to just do my carousel caption margin bottom of 0. So I'm going to just steal this bit, Control C, pop it in there, get rid of the bit I don't want, which is the padding, margin bottom 0. Okay, and let's make sure, let's put our 400 in the media query there, or else it won't work. Control S to save. Let's go back to the site and refresh. Okay, when it drops down below 400, it should now just drop down a slight bit. 6, there we go, under 400. So that's fine. And honestly, I think we're down to 350 now, which is as small as phones get nowadays, so I think that's going to be okay. If we pull it all the way back up, yeah, and just take this off so we're where we were. It's fine. And we'll just take it from the top down. So here we are. Let's roll that up a bit and let's take it all the way down, and we should be okay on all screen sizes. Yeah, that's fine. You can see those media queries jumping in as we get to their sizes. And that's it. Just double check. iPhone, fine. iPad, let's take it up to 100%. Okay, we're still missing oh, I see those buttons did disappear. We told them to disappear 777, didn't we? I wonder if we could take that 777 down to 767 or something. That way we'd still have them on the iPad here. Let's just try that quickly. So let's take that down to 767. Control S to save. Back to the site. Refresh. There we go. We've still got our buttons. Here's the iPad. First slide. Second slide. Third slide. Absolutely fine. Great. So iPad good. Make sure iPhone 10's still good. That's pretty. What about iPad Pro? Yeah. Absolutely fine. So I'm happy with that. So there you have it. Rather long-winded, but that's how to do media queries, and we've done them for our full slider here. So that should now look great on all devices. We've done the same thing for our menu here, so we've made sure that this is fully responsive, and a slider is one of the more complex things to do media queries on because of the moving parts. So I hope you found that useful and enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, share, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're interested in web development, take a look down below. We've got some great free web development courses down there, as well as some premium courses with some huge discounts for our YouTube subscribers. So do check it out. Once again, this has been Jamie with System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.